Let's kick off. So good morning. Welcome to day one of the NAB Show Streaming Summit. My name is Dan Rayburn. I'm the conference chairman. I will be your host and MC and moderator for some of the sessions today as well. I'd like to thank a lot of people to start. I'm the face of the Streaming Summit. It's got my name on it by Dan Rayburn, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes at the NAB that are making this happen. So appreciate all the help. We've got a lot of content over the next 2 days. I believe when it comes to trade shows, it should be bespoke. It should be personalized. So we know you have a lot of choices in the market. We appreciate you being here today when it comes to all the options you have for conferences and events. My number one goal is one thing and one thing only: to help inform, educate, and empower you all. I am in the business of information. That is all I do. I wear a lot of hats. I'm an analyst. I'm a blogger. I'm a journalist. I do a podcast. I put on conferences. I consult to companies. I work with institutional money managers on Wall Street. All those hats I wear, the bottom line is I am in the business of information. It is my job to try and source the best information to you, to the industry at all times. So I deal with content owners. I deal with OTT services, hardware vendors, cloud providers. I deal with Congress and Senate asking about laws and rules. I deal with Wall Street, I deal with VCs, I deal with private equity firms. But my job comes down to information. That is the number one job I have, is provide the right information to you. To give you a little idea of what we're going to see over the next 2 days, and just a little set of the flow here, this is track A. Next door is track B. Tonight at 5 p.m., from 5 p.m. to 6:30, we have the cocktail reception. If you weren't here last year, the cocktail reception is just one floor up and down at the end of the hallway. It's outside on the patio. It's really beautiful. Show of hands here, who is new to the Streaming Summit this year? That is awesome. Wow, that's a lot of hands. So that is great to see. Truly appreciate you being here. One of the things I did this year is I took a lot of feedback from last year, and you'll notice, well, some of you won't notice, you're new to the show, but I cut out a lot of roundtable sessions. Why? A lot of roundtable sessions tend to be a waste of time or flat out boring. One of the things you won't notice is I'm not sticking 8 or 9 people on a session like a lot of shows do just to pad their speaker lineup. Again, this is about information. So a lot of the sessions this year are 30-minute case study presentations with customers, with content owners, with broadcasters, with OTT providers. I like that format, going to see how it plays, but at any time, if you want to give me feedback on the content in terms of what you want to see, I'd love to hear it. I also program content for his real world today. You'll notice there is nothing up here about AR, VR, machine learning, blockchain, anything else. Why? That is not real. Companies cannot bet their entire future on that. So we're talking at the Streaming Summit about real world information. There isn't a single session here that says the future of online video advertising. I don't know what that means. So I am trying to give you information at all times, whether it's here in person, whether it's online with the blog or podcast. I'm trying to give you real world information that you can practically apply in your business immediately. That is my number one goal. I'd like to thank all the sponsors we have here, 31 sponsors, which is amazing. A lot of great companies are supporting the Streaming Summit. As you can see here, this is the cocktail reception. If you don't know about the OTT demo area, so last year at the show here, one of the things I realized from going to a lot of events myself is we're talking about streaming, but nobody's showing it. That's a problem. So what we did here this year, this is in the West Hall. There's 5 TVs from all the TV manufacturers set up. On each TV is a Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. Then on every single one of those devices, there's 25 at least OTT platforms. We've spent Friday, Saturday, Sunday hammering out, hammering out by hand hundreds of accounts into these platforms. Why? Well, you have to be able to see this stuff. So at any time over the 4 days of this show, starting yesterday, if you want to come test any OTT streaming service, just about, on any platform, smart TVs, streaming boxes, completely free. Come down to the show floor. So it's here in the West Hall. That's the location. It's really kind of right in the middle of the entire floor. Did this last year as well. I'll continue to do this, calling it the OTT demo area. If you want to come compare 4K, pre-roll ads, in-stream, live streaming, live linear, come check it out. So we're not actually doing the demos. We will just literally hand you the remote, play with it, do what you like with it. So these are the types of things I think we need more of at summits. Now, this is my cell phone number. For the last 20 years, I've been publishing my cell phone number publicly. It's on my blog, it's on LinkedIn, it's everywhere. Now, some people think I'm absolutely crazy to do that. Yes, I take a lot of weird calls and at all hours of the night, but I've been doing this 20 years. The reason you do this is because you have to make yourself available and you have to give back to the industry. 2023 marks the 26th year of the streaming media industry, believe it or not. I started broadcasting live events for dial-up in 1995 with Apple. Right? So the industry is a lot older than many people realize. There's a lot of new people in our industry. I meet people every single day, talk to them on the phone, emails, LinkedIn, where they've only been in the space 6 months, a year. They don't know the industry is 26 years old. So the reason I publish my phone number, I am a free resource available to anyone at any time. You can call me. I will pick up. I don't screen calls. If I'm already on a call, I will get back to you usually the same day, free of charge. So who am I taking calls from? I'm taking calls from the largest CEOs of the streaming services who want to know what I'm seeing in the market. They want to know transit pricing, CDM pricing, what I'm seeing in bit rates, optimization, what I'm hearing on Wall Street. Congress and Senate call asking about laws potentially they're going to make, thinking net neutrality. Worked on that a lot. I am always available to the industry, to the community at all times, free. So if you're looking for information, I'll try and get it for you. If I don't have it, I will connect you with somebody else. So if you have any questions, even during the show, text me. Someone's going to have my phone. Paul's here. He's going to have my phone the whole time. He'll get back to you right away, whatever you need. In addition, there's a lot of content over the next 2 days. I will be happy to sit with you real quickly and develop a custom program for you of where you should go the next 2 days. What track should you be in? Based on what your background is and what you want to learn. All the sessions are being recorded thanks to Mobion. We are not streaming live out of here, but everything is recorded at every show we do. If you go to nabstreamingsummit.com, you can see the archives for all the past shows. These videos will be up in about a week after the show. No ads, no login, right? Again, make it easy. You can download them. We don't protect them either. So you can go grab them if you'd like to. For the schedule for the next 2 days, just go to nabshow.com/streaming. Made that quick URL for you guys so you can just see the schedule. We also have some printouts as well so you can see the next 2 days. So at any time, you'll see me running around over the next 2 days, pretty busy, but please stop me at any time if you want help. I'll be happy to customize it for you. I'm also happy to announce I'm going to bring the show back in New York this year. So during COVID, there was a 2-year hiatus in New York with the NAB show. Last year, the NAB show did come back to New York. I did not do the summit. I'm going to bring it back this year, 2 days, 2 tracks. Call for speakers will launch after this is over. So just a heads up on that. You can always go to nabstreamingsummit.com for the latest information. So I'm going to spend 15 minutes here talking about some key things in the market I think you need to know. And then we're going to sit down. I'm going to have fireside chat, Zumo. So it's incredible to think every year when I stand up here just how much has changed. So I've been talking for 14 minutes and 11 seconds right now. In that time, there's about 300 million videos that have been played just in the US alone. That includes TikTok, short form, long form. Right? This is the rate of how video is growing these days. And yet, what has happened, even with the growth of video, the revenue is not kept up. Profitability hasn't been focused on. So over the last 12 to 18 months, what have we seen on the business side of the industry? Stocks have been crushed. You all know that. You're probably all looking at your portfolios and seeing that. Stocks have been crushed, not just from vendors, but from content owners, right? The Disneys of the world. Some stocks are down 94% year over year. 94%. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Now, Wall Street has changed how they value services in our market. The Amazon days of get big fast, if you know that term, that's what a lot of companies were doing. Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery. They've publicly come out now and said, maybe we grew a little too fast. Maybe we didn't get our packaging right, our pricing right. And so companies have grown too fast, tried to. at all costs. Now Wall Street is saying we would rather you get to profitability faster, even if you don't have as many subscribers. On the vendor side, investors want to see profitability. If you look at every single company tied to video last year, there's 54 companies that are public that I track. Every quarter, I look at their earnings, I read through their filings, and I post on LinkedIn the snippets you need to know about that company. Profitability, cash flow, how much they're losing, organic growth, subscriber churn, if that gets out, ARPU, average revenue per user. It's a lot of information. I've already done the homework for you. Just follow me on LinkedIn. Every quarter, I'm pushing out 54 posts, one in each company, just what you need to know. And if you start looking at the data from all those different earnings, it's incredible to see what happened over the last 12 months. There's only one company last year in our space whose stock was up, Harmonic, with a great return too, which is interesting. That's it. It's the only company. So the days of easy money are over. Cheap money is gone. All right, interest rates are up. The macroeconomic environment we are in has completely changed the landscape for business in every sector. So what have companies had to do? They've had to refocus. We've seen layoffs because they grew too big during COVID, because their egos of many executives got in the way and they thought what we were seeing during COVID was the new norm. It wasn't. I don't know why anybody thought it was. This idea that we were never going to go back to the movies or go back to the gym or buy a car in a dealership, I don't know what people were thinking. IMAX had its best first quarter in its history ever at the box office last quarter, Q1. Best ever. As consumers, we want different experiences. We want them with different pieces of content. This idea that there's only one model, there's only one type of quality, that's not the case. Think of AVOD, SVOD, hybrid, pay to own, pay to rent, short form, long form, 4K, 1080p, HDR. It's not a one size fits all. But the business economics of this industry has completely changed. And I don't care what you do at your job in sense of, if you are not tied to finance, you still need to know the numbers, because it dictates what happens at your business. It dictates what happens with profitability and growth and where you invest in R&D and layoffs. I get extremely frustrated in the industry when I see people debating on LinkedIn what's going to happen to Netflix, and they make comments like, well, they're losing a lot of money, and people want to debate this. Why? They're a public company. We know the numbers. They've projected $3 billion of free cash flow this year. They're not losing money. It's a fact. So part of the problem, too, we have is how people are sharing information. Good example here, Akamai. Akamai's GAAP net income for last year was $524 million. Right? They're printing money. And yet their stock was down more than 10% year over year. That is how much has changed on Wall Street. So Wall Street wants to see profitability and they want to see growth at the same time. Why? Well, because they're Wall Street. They always want everything. But companies right now are going to profitability. That is the key. If you saw Warner Bros. Discovery's media event last week, watched that or read the transcript where they talked about combining Discovery Plus HBO Max into Max, CEO started off by saying, it's not just about gaining new subscribers, it's about retaining them. Correct. And he ended the presentation with, we are going to, quote, drive free cash flow. This is the new norm. You got to get used to it. This is going to be about profitability for companies. That is the key. At the same time, don't be misguided by stock prices. Don't think just because the stock is low that the company has a bad business model. It's not the case many times. Wall Street is extremely finicky right now. Everything the Fed's doing, raising the interest rates and whatnot, has a lot of impact. So what we have going on just in the overall business market right now, forget streaming, just business environment, is having a big impact in our industry along with everyone else. Many vendors raise too much money. During COVID days, man, you'd see a vendor put out a press release and they raised X amount. You can tell right away that's bad. It's a bad strategy. Because now you're growing, you're hiring all these people, hundreds of people. A year later, what do? You lay them off. Why'd you grow so fast? I don't like this because it takes me back to the dot-com days when companies raised so much money and you knew they could not get to the numbers that they were projecting. They were not realistic. We have to live in reality as an industry, not fantasy land like a lot of companies are living in. I see reports out there talking about whether it's the CDM market and coding market with TAMs in the tens of billions of dollars. Those numbers are not real. They're not legit. And how do we know that? Well, because a lot of the companies they're talking about are public. We know their financials. We know how fast they're growing or not growing. You have vendors in the space who have already given out full year 2023 projections for Wall Street and have said they will grow 0% this year. Those are many of the same vendors who grew 0% last year. That is the reality of the market we're in. Everybody wants to do more with less. Optimization is the key. When money is cheap, companies gamble. A lot of companies gambled during COVID when interest rates were low. It's not good. As I say here in the slide, just in the vendor side alone, just vendors in the space, more than 100 C-level executives have been replaced in the last 12 months. And that number's much higher. It's probably closer to 200. I stopped counting, frankly, after 100. It's a lot. What does that tell you? It tells you companies are changing direction. They're doing triage. They're figuring out the problem, what they have to solve, how they refocus the business. That is the key. Also, there's plenty of companies during COVID and after that tried to sell. The term sheets out there, absurd. You've got companies that have $8 or $10 million of revenue in our business. They want $75 million to be acquired. They want 10 times revenue. It's not happening. If you look at the majority of acquisitions in our space over the last 2 years, the multiple, sales multiple, is between 2 to 3 times revenue. That's it. 2 to 3 times. So a lot of companies pulled term sheets over the last 6 to 8 months. They're not getting the multiples that they want. It's going to be harder for them to raise money. Some companies have already taken 5, 6 rounds. We're definitely going to see attrition in the market. I don't think that's a bad thing. Right? Good companies, they survive. Great companies grow. And that's what vendors in particular are focused on in this market right now. Let's talk about bundling, packaging. Fascinating to see how many people are looking at news in the market and thinking services are going to change when they look exactly like cable TV. NFL deal with Google, with YouTube TV, NFL Sunday Ticket, reported, we don't know for sure, reported at $2 billion a year. They just announced pricing last week. It's $349 if you're a YouTube TV subscriber, or $449 if you're not. There's a $100 discount on both packages right now. It's up until June. However, it's all or nothing. You can't only buy your favorite team. Let's say you travel 6 months out of the year and you only see one game. There's no pay-per-view. So for all the talk in our industry, when this deal went through, like, oh, wow, YouTube's going to repackage this and there's going to be so much flexibility and customization and personalization. Wrong. Also, no refunds. They're very quick to point out on their page, after you buy it, there are no refunds. It sounds like cable TV to me. So what's changed? Nothing. And yet all we heard was, well, when YouTube gets it, there's going to be so much flexibility. I thought it was interesting that someone from YouTube was quoted in all these articles talking about when they launched the service or announced the pricing last week, that they're providing, they actually used the word flexibility for consumers. What's flexible about it? Nothing. Now, I do think over the deal, 7 years, I believe it's reported, with the NFL, I do think that they'll bring more customization. I do think over time they will get it to where you can sign up for your favorite team and that you'll have more options. But this is the reality, right? This looks just like the cable TV bundle. Think of Sling TV, right? Sling TV for many years was promoting what with their service? A la carte. Was it a la carte? Could you pick the channels you wanted? No. You had to pick packages. So what we're seeing in the market now is rebundling of services. Disney CEO, Bob, the new old Bob, he made it very clear that he thinks they rolled out Disney Plus too quickly and they didn't get the packaging and the pricing right. He thinks they can raise pricing. We're still going to see a lot of, let's call it testing in the market. So more of that is coming. Fast, I'm so tired of hearing about fast. Hey, fast is nothing new. It's just a new way of packaging content. If you go and talk to the fast providers, though, it's fascinating how 5% of the channels are making up 95% of the traffic. Not surprising. How many channels does your dog need to watch TV? Right? Like 1 or 2, fine. All right, maybe they like choice. But it's ridiculous. Google just announced last week they're providing access to 800 fast channels through Google TV. 800. Now here's the problem. I don't speak Spanish. Why can't I take the Spanish channels out of the guide? Where's the personalization? We're running around as an industry talking about personalization. And then when you ask companies what they're doing, they're like, you can change your avatar picture. Cool. I'm not 15 anymore. Right? Like, I want actual personalization. Very hard to do. So fast, there's a lot of work to be done. You'll also notice that almost no company in the market tied to fast is giving out any numbers on revenue, profitability, CPMs, viewership, usage, none. You have them saying total viewership grew 54% last year. I don't know what that means. Doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot of hype around fast. Just everyone chill out on fast, right? Fast serves its purpose, but I hear people writing and I see them saying like it's going to save the industry. Our industry doesn't need saving, and fast is not the way to do it. 4K, let's talk about this for a minute, because there's a huge debate going on always about 4K in our space, all the time. And what I always say is this: the best technology is not what's always adopted. Right. What's adopted is what's easy. What's adopted is what consumers want to use. Why did Roku do so well in the beginning when it came to the market? Because it was easy. I could give my mom a Roku and she could set it up. Right? They knew who their customer was. They knew who they were targeting. This is about services that are easy to use. These are about services that are reliable. Now, 4K doesn't matter. Depends who you ask. But you know what? We don't decide that. Customers decide that. You have to put the customer first. So, YouTube TV, you want live? $10 more a month for 4K. Warner Bros. Discovery with Max, higher tier, charging more for 4K. Netflix charges more for 4K. Right? Why are they doing this? The workflow, obviously, for 4K is more expensive for them. Profitability, right? It's got to get back to profitability. But when you also talk to these companies quietly, the tiers that have 4K in them are the least popular tiers. Now, how do we know this? What's the stat you should use? Netflix, whose earnings are tomorrow, has obviously an ad tier, AVOD tier. Now, watch those numbers over the next year or two. Because if you see those numbers grow, what consumers just told us is, I don't care about 4K because the package I get with Netflix doesn't provide it. Their AVOD tier at $10 a month does not have 4K. And yet if consumers keep signing up for it, what are they doing? They're voting with their wallet. So 4K only matters in certain instances with certain types of customers. If you think of Apple Friday Night Baseball, it's not in 4K. Past Super Bowl was not in 4K. It was upscaled. It's different. Most IPL, that IPL is not 4K. Most World Cup, it's not 4K. So 4K serves a purpose only in certain instances. So my point is stay grounded to reality of what's actually taking place in the market. Do more with less. Netflix recently put out numbers in Open Connect, their CDN distribution that they've built out over the last 10 or 12 years. Some numbers they put out. In the last 5 years, they've cut their bit rates in half. Show of hands, does anyone in this room thinks Netflix video quality is poor today? For those in the video, not a single hand is up in this room of over 200 people. So they reduced bit rates by 50% and they didn't reduce quality. What does that tell you? Optimization is key. It's about optimizing the video stack, the workflow, the consumer experience. It's not about just pushing out more bits or throwing in more technology. Technology has to serve a business purpose. Ultra low latency. A lot of nerds in the industry want to debate that. What's the business use case? You talk to the content owners, they're like, there isn't one. Everyone says, well, online betting. Yeah, it's not real. There's no online micro wagering taking place in a stream. So there has to be a business purpose. That is really important. Also, recently, some of the CDNs, including Akamai, went on record with me for a blog post 6 months ago, talking about how the major content owners are reducing the highest rung in their bitrate ladder. Reducing it. Why? Save money. They also said that, Akamai said in particular, less than 10% of all the content they deliver is 4K. Some of the other CDNs told me it's less than 5%, and some of them told me it was flat year over year. These are the guys delivering the video. They have the data. Real numbers. One or two more slides. We'll start with the chat. Need to get back to the basics. Warner Bros. Discovery CEO, I loved it. He said at the end of his presentation, we need to get back to the basics. We are chasing shiny balls. We're going to have to take the best technology, Discovery Plus, the best technology at HBO Max, and we're going to have to put it into one service, Max, that works for consumers, that is easy, that has personalization, true personalization, but we have to get back to the basics. We have to do a better job of delivering video, optimizing video, using metadata. All the stuff we hear about every day, AR, VR, metaverse, blockchain, Apple headset, it's noise. You are not driving your business in the next 12, 24, or 36 months off of any of these. You're not. Any company that's focusing on that is going to lose. Now, when you're Apple, when you're Google, right, you can take big bets. Very few companies can do that. We have to make this simple to use. Final 2 points. Words have meanings. Words matter. I try and stay away from words that end in ly. Probably, likely, usually. What do those words mean? Nothing. There's no concrete definition. But on LinkedIn, so many people are sharing information now without checking the source, without checking the numbers, without asking questions, without saying, what is the methodology? People are sharing every day information that is factually inaccurate. And I try and correct everything I can. And some people don't like that. I don't care. That is my job as I see it, to make sure the right information is getting out there. My ask of you is, if you're going to share information with others, check the source. It is mind-boggling to me that people will throw out some stuff on LinkedIn and not even know that it's a public company that put out numbers that says the opposite. So you all have to hold everybody accountable that is an analyst or member of the media, including myself. Question everything I put up there. I will put up methodology. I will say this is where it comes from. Here's the link. Here's what the company said. Here's a quote. Here's an earnings call. Here's an SEC filing. Most people are not putting up where they're actually sourcing this information from. So please be very careful what you share. The reason I say that, the reason I care about this, is I don't want us to get back to the days of the dot-com era, when companies raised money and VCs put in money based on false expectations. Setting customer expectations is the number one goal. Your customer might be B2B, it might be B2C, it might be Wall Street. Whoever your customer is, the expectations have to be accurate. And it starts with information. Information of any industry is key. So be careful what you share. Please be very careful. Finally, you have to start with the customer. Even over the last 2 or 3 days here at the NAB show, I've sat with some companies, and they're telling me how they're doing pricing. Or, oh, we're going to package something this way as a vendor. And I said, is that the way your customer wants to buy it? I don't know, but that's the way we want to sell it. Wrong. You have to find out how the customer wants to buy it, how they want to package it. You have to understand the customer's problem. You have to put the customer first. Start with the customer and work back from there. You might want to go to the customer and charge something based on a time viewing or total hours viewed, but the customer might want to buy it based on per gig delivered. You have to know the business model of how they want to do that, especially because right now they're looking at optimizing every single dollar. It's extremely important. If your pricing doesn't work, forget the numbers, just the way your pricing doesn't work, you have no shot. So you've got to be tactical in that regard. Finally, services have to be easier. 26 years later, this needs to be easier. So, here's the background. I'm not making fun of HBO Max. I think they're actually one of the best companies in the space, not only from a technical standpoint. Every couple months, HBO Max publishes publicly everything they've fixed in their platform, every bug. It's incredible. I've never seen anyone else do it. I think they're an absolute great team. But I'm using this as an example of during soccer and HBO Max, this was the error message that popped up. Can you imagine reading back a 36-character code to someone where English is probably not their first language? I mean, can you imagine this? And it's case sensitive? It's just, that's not easy, right? That's not simple. We have to get back to simplicity. Right? The consumer experience is what matters. So, no matter what you're doing in the market, I don't care if you're sales, your marketing, your product, your program management, your executives, your CEOs, you have to invest in people, not ideas. You have to invest in simplicity. You know? I like to say all the time, there's an elegant, now I'm going to say it wrong. There's an elegant complexity in simplicity. Our workflow is difficult, whatever your business is in. Ingestion, delivery, glass to glass. How do you create, capture, ingest, store, transcode, monetize, protect, track, playback, deliver content? This is hard. 26 years later, man, it's complicated. But this is the type of thing where consumers see this and just say, you guys aren't ready for prime time. No wonder why I still have cable TV. So we have to make it easier is my point. So I'm out of time here. I'm going to have Colin come up in a minute. Before I do that, I'm going to talk about something personally, if you don't mind, for a minute or two, because I had some good success from this last year. Last year was the first time that I mentioned this. So I love the industry that I'm in. I feel very fortunate to be in here 26 years, meeting so many amazing people, smart people in the industry, right? Way smarter than me, talking technology, business, right? I love the industry just because I like business, just in general, right? I like the idea of business, but there's something more important to me in this world. And as a former member of the military, of the Air Force, I spend about 50% of my time now. I've been given the privilege and opportunity to be deeply embedded with our Army Special Forces, which are called Green Berets. And it's a very unique position to be put into because I'm not a Green Beret. I'm not a Special Forces soldier. And I have very unique access. I travel the country training them up. Some of them at times have lived with me for 6 months, sometimes their wives and kids. Many of them have gotten hurt, as I'm sure you're well aware over the last couple of years. So over the last 5 years, I've been embedding them with me on the business side, taking them to events like this, bringing them to places, trying to get them jobs. So I have a program with the Special Forces group where I go there, I train them, I teach them about business economics, cybersecurity, internet infrastructure, what it takes for them to get off a team and come into the civilian world. And many of them think that, civilians think that they get all jobs real easy because of how unique they are, but actually they struggle because nobody knows who they are. They're quiet professionals. And I mention that because I have 9 of them here with me at this show. I've got 6 or 7 in the back of the room right now. And I mentioned this last year, 2 executives. So thank you to Bob Lyons over at Edgeo. He hired 1. Jeff Schick at Oracle hired 1. Disney Streaming Services has hired 4 soldiers from me. Eric Black at NBC Sports, he hired. Joshua Shaw, CEO of Alert Security, he hired 3. So I've had a lot of success getting them into our industry. There's no fee to your company for this. This is free. I foot the bill for this. It's no cost to them. So I mention this because they're here. So if any of you are looking to hire some of the most unique individuals in the world and skill sets can be practically applied in your business immediately, problem solving, adaptability, empathy for their peers, they're natural born leaders, and they communicate with clarity, consistency, and candor in everything they do. They are truly the most special individuals in the world. They all know multiple languages. They absorb information. They're constantly learning, and they want to be part of a team. That is what drives them. So I mention that because they're here. So if any of you are looking to hire, if any of you would like to meet them, stop me at any time, wherever I am. Don't worry that I look real busy. I'll look real busy for the next 2 days. Stop me at any time. I'd love to make an introduction and introduce you to them. So with that, we're just going to take like a 1-minute break. We're going to get Colin up here, and we're going to flip, and we're going to go right into the conversation. Thank you.